Dakar. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar. Good evening and welcome to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Coming up in the news, U.S. Congress hearing on Christian genocide in Nigeria yet again ignites a fresh debate.
Anybody who comes out and say that there's no Christian genocide, there's no Christian persecution, is not fair to the Christians of northern Nigeria.
How they concluded their report by saying there is a genocide is quite intriguing.
Ghana's newly sworn-in Chief Justice Bafo Boni pledges to uphold the rule of law. In Liberia, women and girls petition United Nations office in Monrovia over government's delay in prosecuting rape cases. An ECOWAS chairperson, Sierra Leone President Amada Bio, calls for support for African-led peace initiatives to end terrorism.
Africa's effort must be met with robust international responsibility and partnership.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. On Thursday, November 20, the United States Congress will lead an inquiry into allegations of a Christian genocide in Nigeria as alleged by American President Donald Trump in October. In a social media post, Trump labeled the country as one of particular concern. But ahead of the hearing to be conducted by the U.S. House on Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on Africa, Nigeria is swamped with a range of reactions from the traditional and religious community who hold strong opposing views about these claims. WADR's Usman Umar reports.
The session, to be chaired by Republican lawmaker Chris Smith, follows President Donald Trump's decision to again list Nigeria as a country of particular concern, a designation reserved for nations accused of severe violations of religious freedom. Congressman Smith, a long-time advocate on the issue, has backed resolutions naming two pastoralist groups, the Miete Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria and Miete Allah Kautal Hori, as entities allegedly involved in attacks on Christian communities. The comments have sparked fresh debate in Nigeria. The chairman of the northern chapter of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Reverend Joseph Hayab, insists that the allegations reflect lived realities across the north.
We have different groups and different people who view this differently. So anytime you listen to this conversation, you have this thing going. But as I've said in many fora, that the truth about it is that anybody who comes out and say that there's no Christian genocide, there's no Christian persecution, is not fair to the Christians of northern Nigeria, neither is it fair to the victims and their families.
However, government officials strongly disagree, dismissing the U.S. reports as misinformed and unrepresentative of Nigeria's complex security situation. Daniel Boala is a spokesperson for Nigeria's president.
They relied on two reports. The first report is from Inter-Society, Civil Liberties and Human Rights, and the second report is on Observatory for Religious Freedom in Africa. These two reports, in their very constituents, they indicated that there is a killing of both Christians, Muslims, and non-Christian and non-Muslims. So how they concluded, even though the raw data and the analysis of the data suggests that there is no genocide, how they concluded their report by saying there is a genocide is quite intriguing.
As the U.S. Congress prepares for Thursday's hearing, what is clear, however, is that the debate is reopening questions about Nigeria's handling of insecurity and how the world perceives it. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Meanwhile, ECOWAS chairperson and Sierra Leone President Julius Maada Bio has warned about the negative impacts of violence and conflict on the attainment of global peace and economic stability. Bio was speaking at the UN headquarters in New York on Monday, where he presided over the Security Council. Chairing a high-level session focused on the theme Threats to International Peace and Security, Conflict-Related Food Insecurity, he emphasized ECOWAS's role in addressing threats to peace, security, and humanitarian concerns in the West African sub-region.
The rise of terrorism and violent extremism in the Sahel and is increasingly spilling over into coastal West African states, and that constitutes a grave threat to international peace and security. But we in the region are determined to confront this menace head-on. As current chair of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, I'm committed to strengthening regional trust and security cooperation to address our shared challenges. However, to succeed, Africa's effort must be met with robust international responsibility and partnership. Today, I call on the United Nations Security Council, the UN member states, the Secretariat and partners to support Africa-led peace initiatives with concrete action. In particular, we urge the full implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 2719, which was a landmark unanimous decision acknowledging the need for predictable financing for African peace operations. That resolution provides a framework for the UN to help fund African-led peace support operations through assessed contributions on a case-by-case basis.
Sierra Leone President and ECOWAS Chairperson Julius Maada Bio speaking there.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. We stream live at wadr.org and on Facebook and YouTube at WADR English. Let's take you to Guinea, where the children of reggae artist Eli Camario are still missing since they were reportedly kidnapped over the weekend. The incident took place at his home in the Mantoto district located in the upper suburbs of Conakry, the nation's capital. Camano, who is currently in exile, alleges that the military in power ordered the kidnapping in an attempt to silence him. Human rights advocates are calling for independent and credible investigations into the matter. Augustine Kole has more.
On his Facebook page, artist Eli Kamando announced that his children and one of his brothers had been adopted by a group of masked soldiers. The reggae artist, who is a vocal critic of the transitional authorities, accuses transitional president General Mamadi Doumbouya and the minister, chief of staff to the president, of ordering the kidnapping.
Mamadou Doumbouya and Jibaja Kite abducted my children at 4 a.m. from my home. Masked individuals entered my house. They took 3 of my children. They ransacked my home. Mamadou Doumbouya is bringing my children home because they have absolutely nothing to do with the struggle I am waging.
Human rights defenders in the country also alarmed the surge in kidnappings. Mamadou Kali Jallo, a member of the Coordination of Human Rights Organizations, is calling for investigations into this situation.
It is with deep concern that we observe this recurring phenomenon of kidnapping Guinean citizens. Therefore, it is reiterated that it is the imperative duty of every state to guarantee the safety and well-being of its citizens in all circumstances. Thus, we are calling upon the judicial authorities to open serious, impartial and independent investigations that will lead to the identification of these alleged perpetrators and their prosecution. These are practices that dishonor or at least seriously damage the image of a state governed by the rule of law.
Several political leaders, including Selu Dalin Jallo and Fayami Limono, have expressed their support for Eli Kamano. They are demanding an independent investigation and the release of those adopted.
A report by WADR's Conakry correspondent, Cheno Alpha Ibrahima Balde, and voiced by Augustine Kole. In Liberia, the controversial rape case linking a suspended Deputy Minister for Youth Development has ignited public outrage over sexual violence across the country. Bryant McGill was suspended by President Joseph Boakai following allegations that he raped a minor. Despite his suspension, the Liberia National Police announced the need for international DNA testing before arresting the accused official, a statement many perceive as preferential treatment for high-profile individuals accused of rape. On Monday, a group described as Liberia Women and Girls Against Rape submitted a petition to the United Nations office in Monrovia requesting international intervention. Abraham Parker tells us more.
The petition outlined several grievances, including more than 2,000 unresolved rape and sexual violence cases, missing files, and allegations of pressure on victims to remain silent. Sharon Kolumolo, speaking on behalf of the group, stated that women and girls in Liberia are being sexually abused, with little or no effort from the government to protect them.
If the government of Liberia will not protect its own children, then the United Nations must help us start an independent investigation into why rape cases are not being prosecuted.
Meanwhile, Yei Deve Yanko, an activist for women's and girls' rights, criticizes the slow pace of investigations, lack of convictions, and apparent impunity in being endured by perpetrators with political connections. Adding to the criticism, human rights lawyer Tiawan Gongolo raises concerns about the police hindering of the Mangel case.
The allegation of the victim and the physical evidence on the victim's body are conclusive evidence, not just of probable cause, but sufficient for conviction. So I'm calling upon the police to step up a little bit and arrest Bryant.
The latest petition to the United Nations office emphasizes the increasing desperation of Liberian women and girls who feel that their voices are not being heard and their safety is not being prioritized by the government. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Away from Liberia, Ghana's President John Mahama has sworn in Justice Paul Bafo-Boni as the new Chief Justice of the country. His appointment marks a critical step in restoring leadership to the nation's judiciary following last week's parliamentary confirmation and the recent removal of his predecessor, Justice Gertrude Tokono. Speaking at his swearing-in, the new Chief Justice pledged to, among others, uphold the rule of law and oversee a system where justice is not delayed nor denied. WADR's Naderi Tete reports.
You say after me,
I, Paul Bafo-Boni,
do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
Do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
At a ceremony held at the Jubilee House and graced by high-ranking dignitaries including the Vice Presidents, members of the Council of State, the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, the leadership of Parliament, Supreme Court justices, and representatives of the Ghana Bar Association, President Mahama commended Justice Paul Bafo-Boni for his vast experience and unwavering commitment to the rule of law. He urged the new Chief Justice to safeguard judicial independence and promote swift delivery of justice.
The judiciary in particular must be above reproach. One single act of corruption by a judicial officer can undermine years of hard work and erode public confidence in the entire system. My Lord Chief Justice, one of your most urgent tasks is to strengthen integrity within the judiciary, and this includes firm but fair disciplinary standards for judges and staff.
Accepting the mantle of leadership, the newly sworn-in Chief Justice Paul Bafo-Boni outlined his vision for the judiciary that upholds the rule of law, respects court decisions irrespective of public opinion, and advances reforms to enhance transparency and accessibility.
I envision a Ghana where justice is not delayed or denied, where the cost, distance, and complexity of going to court are no longer barriers to fairness. I envision judges who are independent, yet humble, fearless, yet fair, learned, yet compassionate.
Justice Paul Bafo-Boni's appointment marks a pivotal moment for Ghana's judiciary, restoring full leadership to the institution following his parliamentary confirmation last week and the recent removal of his predecessor, Justice Gertrude Araba Issa Basaki Tokono. For WADR, Naderi Tete, Accra.
Well, away from Ghana, let's take you to Benin before the recap, where the Autonomous Electoral Commission (SENA) has confirmed the final registration of the two pairs of candidates contesting in the 2026 presidential election. The electoral receipts were presented to the candidates' representatives at the institution's headquarters on Monday. Led by SENA President Sakalafia, the ceremony brought together members of the Electoral Council and several technical officials. Francis Boniface completes the story.
The electoral documents were officially handed over to representatives of the candidates chosen for the 2026 presidential election. They include Romuald Wadanyi and Mariam Chabi Talata from the presidential coalition, as well as Paul Onkwe and Judisael Nwanyu from the Force Kauri for an Emerging Benin FCBE. In his remarks, Saka Lafia, president of the National Independent Electoral Commission, SENA, outlined the process that led to the final validation of candidates' applications. He highlighted that several key steps, including analysis of submitted documents and verification of criminal records and review of medical reports for each candidate. Saka Lafia also mentioned that a draw will be conducted in the coming days to determine the candidates' positions on a single ballot. Additionally, the president of the National Independent Electoral Commission, SENA, noted that the commission is concurrently processing applications for the legislative elections scheduled for January 2026. He urged political parties to adhere to the Wednesday, November 19 midnight deadline, stating that no applications will be accepted after this time.
A report filed in by WADR's Cotonou correspondent Aziz Adam Sule and presented to you by Francis Boniface. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal, and around the world on WADR.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. U.S. Congress hearing on Christian genocide in Nigeria yet again ignites fresh debate. Ghana's newly sworn-in Chief Justice Bafo Boni pledges to uphold the rule of law. In Liberia, women and girls petition United Nations office over government's delay in prosecuting rape cases. ECOWAS chairman and Sierra Leone's President Mada Bio calls for support for African-led peace initiatives to end terrorism. Still ahead in the news, we have the guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Here in Senegal, the One Health Secure Regional Workshop is underway in Dakar with the aim of better understanding the links between human, animal, and environmental health in order to strengthen responses to emerging epidemics. Launched on Monday, the meeting runs until November 21 at the Care Center of the Pasteur Institute campus. The 5-day event brings together African and international scientists, specialists from several Maghreb and Sahel countries to work on the prevention and surveillance of vector-borne diseases. Dr. Bahema Fall is Director General of the Pasteur Institute, Dakar.
Climate is an important determinant of health and mainly infectious diseases. When you talk about climate change and health, clearly pandemic and any outbreak-borne diseases are an important focus for us. Basically, if you look at this group called vector-borne diseases or arboviruses, they are very prevalent in Africa because of the climate condition, first of all. But it's not only climate change, it's multifactorial. I talked about deforestation. With the deforestation we are seeing right now, linked to sometimes agriculture, linked to mining industry, we have a loss of biodiversity. This is also critical determinant for the emergence of arboviruses and viral hemorrhagic fever. That's why, again, we need this multisectoral approach to be able to prevent, control outbreak and pandemic.
Dr. Bahema Fall is Director General of the Pasteur Institute of Dakar. Elsewhere, the Gambia and UNICEF have commemorated 60 years of partnership dedicated to improving the lives of children and young people. Marking the 60th anniversary of the partnership, Gambia's Vice President Mohamed B.S. Jallow prayed for the need to strengthen cooperation, partnership, and investment to enhance the provision of safe water and nutrition, combat climate crisis, while ensuring child safety and education. The event brought together senior government officials, diplomats, UN agencies, civil society actors, and children's representatives. From Banjul, Sam Donald Mendy reports.
For 6 decades, UNICEF has made a significant impact in the Gambia, reshaping key sectors that affect children, including protection systems, expanding access to basic education, and improving children's survival rates. Addressing the gathering, the Gambia's Vice President, Mohamed B.S. Jallow, expressed appreciation for the progress achieved through the government's partnership with UNICEF. However, he cautioned that the statistics still reveal major challenges ahead.
The challenges of climate change, strengthening provision of safe water and good nutrition systems, achieving resilient social protection, and ensuring child safety and inclusive education demand our renewed focus.
Meanwhile, Ramon Dur, Deputy Regional Director for West and Central Africa, represented UNICEF and emphasized that the organization's 60 years presence reflect a shared commitment with the government to protect and empower every child.
Our renewed promise to children is a promise to deepen our partnerships, a promise to innovate so that the new challenges that you are facing in this changing world will be addressed with new solutions.
The 60-year partnership between the Gambia and UNICEF also revealed the need for stronger investment in child protection and climate resilience as area deemed critical for shaping the next generation. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdana Mendy reporting from Banjul.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest segment this evening focuses on Ghana's judiciary, essentially as President John Mahama has sworn in Justice Paul Bafo-Boni as the new Chief Justice. At his swearing-in ceremony, Justice Bafo-Boni pledged to uphold the rule of law, ensure accountability, and lead a judicial system where justice is not delayed nor denied. His appointment comes at a crucial moment for Ghana's democracy, with renewed public debate on judicial independence and with the ECOWAS Court of Justice expected to soon rule on the case involving former Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono. That ruling could have significant political and institutional implications for Ghana. To help us understand what this new leadership means for public confidence in the judiciary and the broader outlook for rule of law in Ghana, we are joined by private legal practitioner Martin Bebu.
The removal of the Chief Justice is a very good and positive aspect of the reset agenda. You can see that the facts show that the Chief Justice, used the public purse to purchase a ticket and travel out with her family in a manner that is not sanctioned. But I must add that along the line, there was only one small hitch. But overall, it doesn't spoil the process. That is to say, at a point, the preliminary stages, they were supposed to give the Chief Justice a written explanation of the basis for the case to move forward.
With the appointment of Paul Bafo-Boni, does that repose some confidence, or what do you see as the state of the country's judiciary and the growth of democracy?
Yeah, I think the appointment of Bafo-Boni is going to help shore up the confidence in the judiciary because, as I said, considering the things that Justice Tokono did, the image of the judiciary had sunk further. Already, it wasn't good. If you look at the Mo Ibrahim Index, we've been plummeting and plummeting. It's terribly bad. And then the allegations against Justice Tokono made them the confidence in the judiciary worse. So now that she's been successfully removed, that in itself helps to repose some confidence in our democracy because it tells you that our system is robust enough to at least catch some big people who are misusing the public purse. And so the appointment of Justice Bafo-Boni, first of all, gives that the optics are good because it tells you that the judiciary is under new management. That by itself brings up the confidence. Justice Bafo-Boni knows that, yes, though he has just 1 year, next year, December, he'll be out of office. He knows that he has to do a lot so that he can also live.
Is it because of his age? 69,
yes,
right?
Yes, so he'll be 69 in December. And so next year, December, he'll be 70. And so he'll leave office next December.
Again, when President John Dramani Mahama, during his swearing-in, said that in the spirit of check and balances, I pledge to ensure the total independence of the judiciary. How weighty is this statement from the president, and how is that a confident booster for the ordinary Ghanaian that, look, seeking justice at the court will be faster, and other delays that obviously makes going to court a disincentive would all be a thing of the past?
Okay, yes, that statement as a political statement is weighty, especially in the context that he has subsequently walked a bit of the talk, a bit of the promise that the judiciary will work better, etc. in his administration. The president knows that Ghanaians are now more savvy, more citizens are now more engaged and watching the space keenly.
So, Counsel, the case involving the removal of the former Chief Justice Gertrude Iraba-Isaba Tokonum is in court, the Supreme Court, plus also the ECOWAS Court of Justice on the grounds of abuse of a fundamental human right, and they are yet to actually make a ruling on it. And now we have a new Chief Justice. What do you think would be the state of affairs going forward if the ruling comes in favor of her?
There's a vacancy, so we need a substantive Chief Justice to move things forward. If Chief Justice Tokonu wins in court, yes, so then, and they say she should come and continue in office, what it simply means is that then Bafuboni should leave office, and that's not a problem. If the court so rule, yes, it will be implemented.
Is that so?
Yes. So we are just answering pure law. We are not talking about can it happen in this case. As to whether it will happen in this case, I don't want to go ahead of the courts. No.
Martin Kpebu is a private legal practitioner in Ghana. Well, in the sporting world, Germany and the Netherlands went on goal sprees as they wrapped up World Cup qualification with resounding wins in their last European group matches on Monday. Both European giants needed only to draw to be sure of reaching the global footballing showpiece in the United States, Canada and Mexico. Instead, both went on their attack. Germany took early control as they beat Slovakia 6-0 in Leipzig. The Netherlands took longer to pull away before overcoming Lithuania 4-0 in Amsterdam. Slovakia finished second in Group A. Poland, who survived the scare to win 3-2 in Malta, ended up second to the Dutch in Group G. Second spot secures a place in the 16-team European playoffs in March. Meanwhile, former world heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua will fight YouTube star Jake Paul in a professional bout in the United States next month. Matchroom Boxing announced on Monday. The fight between the YouTuber turned boxer and Joshua, the 36-year-old former two-time unified world champion, will take place at the Kaseya Center in Florida on December 19. The fight, which will be streamed live on Netflix, will consist of 8 3-minute rounds, with the boxers using 10-ounce gloves. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and special thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudo Juf for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via social media platforms X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English, and stream live on WADR.org. I'm Abdullahi Hassan. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.